Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Paragon Gauntlet guide. Too late? Maybe, don't know. I'll just throw it out there, who I used, and some options. Obviously with the stuff that's happened to me in this month, it's been pretty mad. And also the energy cost of Winter of Woe has really meant that this particular guide, that's kind of the reason that it is so delayed as it is. But do check out the link in the description. It will take you to the following guide. This one, I finally updated the tab. So every month I do a spreadsheet guide which encompasses everything that's going on. When we go into sagas, it's probably going to be a case that it will exist for as long as the quest will be available on time. It currently has the Winter of Woe fight option 1 and options for fight 2, which of course are a bit more varied. I am keeping this still here because it could be relevant when it comes to the Gauntlet for the Winter of Woe Gauntlet at the end of the month. Sorry, at the end of next month. Was it the month after? Whenever it comes. There's also an Incursions guide because that's going to come to an end or has already ended. Soon? Possibly? I think it has actually already ended. I'm looking to see if there's Incursions. No, it is there. Silly me. Help if you look, Richard, wouldn't it? Yes, it would. 8 days left before the event ends, so of course go and check that out. Go and do it. Of course, that'll be a top zone bonus resetting, but look, options-wise, Paragon Gauntlet. So for the spreadsheet, because some people, for some reason, I do get questions like, no, you're not doing that right. That's not the romance one. That's not this. That's not like it's. Every time I do the Paragon Gauntlet, because there's always themes to it. There's always a section 1 and a section 2. Yes, a lot of the section 2 will have relevance to what is in section 1 and vice versa. It's the nature of the game. Like it's either hashtag romance or it's complicated, or you can use some of the choice nodes, change some champions out, and go in a different route. Here's the nature of guides and information. Try and give you as many options as possible, and of course that does reflect what the the Cavalier difficulty, Thronebreaker difficulty, bosses and champion counters for in the past. So you probably go, oh well, I use this champion against this. Good, but that champion may not be a hashtag it's complicated or a hashtag it's romance champion. But of course, it's all about boxing clever and we use that term boxing clever because it's all about you take a stance, you take the right stance to counter the other stance, you go southpaw against whatever it is, you change your boxing stance, you adapt and you change throughout the fight. You change your jab, you go on the front foot, you go on the back foot. You kind of look to clinch. I'm not talking about boxing. There's not a video for talking about boxing. That's pretty safe for a different time. So, team-wise for this, I decided to use Gamora, Hercules, and Wiccan. Personally, I actually didn't like that combination. Hercules, of course, did a solid with kind of clearing a lot of champions, and it's not always something that I like to recommend. Say, hey, got Hercules? Just use Hercules, because there's so many other champion options out there. You could actually use Angela for a good chunk of those particular fights. You could use a whole plethora of champions, just as long as you keep within the hashtag romance options. Hulkling can find yourself at a bit of an advantage for some of the fights. You can also find yourself using Human Torch for a few of those fights. I've in past with the Thronebreaker difficulty thrown my Human Torch in against Dust, just with a pre-fight. But you may be of an opportune mind to go, hey, let's go and use Human Torch against Ironheart. So you've got to really make those decisions about what is going to be best for the situation. If I remember, I will edit and throw some footage of some of these champion fights. Not too long though, because we want to make this video as kind of quick and concise as possible with the options. Of course, when it comes to Ultron, you will have to think about reverse controls as part of Delirium. And this is where I came a cropper. I used Wiccan because I just kind of thought that might be quite good for a couple of fights. Yes, Wiccan can do King Groot very nicely. But where it comes a cropper is largely with Ultron. Now, could be down to skill issue from me? Possibly. It would have been better for me to be using either a hashtag robot option or indeed playing into the inverted controls. But there's very much low amounts of inverted control immune champions that do fall into the bracket of available options for that one. In fact, if we just have a quick look, yeah, so it's either hashtag robots or psychic shielding. So on that particular tag, which we'll just load up right now, if we go with let's go with psychic shielding, psychic shielding. It's probably always best I just kind of like put it in psychic. No, it would help if I actually spelt it right. There we go, psychic shielding. It's a real difficult one to find something. I mean, look, there are champions there, right? There are champions there. But you need to also find hashtag romance options at the same time. I don't know if we can add the extra tag in if we're going to go like tag. I don't know if it screws it up. It does screw it up. Anyway, regardless, the options are limited, so you may want to try and be very careful as possible, or at least go down like a hashtag robot-based route. I'll kind of like leave it at that for that particular suggestion, options, and other things. Because you can't use a choice node, you've got to commit to the 3 champions you choose. Whether or not you go with the option of kind of like blitzing it through with Hercules, which like, this particular circumstance, under this, I would say, because in some ways it's restrictive and unfair, like what is fair is to potentially use champions that are going to be breaking the game. I don't normally like say that, and it does pay me to say that, but it's a case of when, you know, if Kabam aren't going to be fair to give you options or choose a wide variety of options. And look, there are a wide variety, but I'm just saying about like, look, at a time when energy costs are so high, resources like revives and health potions, if you make a mistake, can feel like if they're being taken away from you when you need them most, that feels a little bit unfair. So sometimes situations arise where you kind of go, is this fair or unfair? But look, at the end of the day, I tried to use him less as possible, but I ended up kind of going, do you know what? If all else fails, use some other options. Hulk can be used in some capacities. Again, I wouldn't overly advise it. I did have fun using him, just the steamroll stuff, but I wouldn't necessarily advise it. A combination, or a nice combination between champions, especially to deal with auto block. And there's a couple, I think there's a couple of auto block situations, or at least one that I know auto block situation. Kind of points to Angela being your team. But look, Gamora takes on a few champions here or there and can be a very effective option. The same way that I've seen some people use Domino against Ronin. But again, down to personal preference. You could even see a good shout for Absorbing Man being a support to get through the Ronin fight, and as well the Dust fight, maybe taking on something else. But I would say overly, that Ultron fight is largely the biggest problem. So maybe you want to bring one specific counter for that, or play into the reverse controls. At the end of the day, I ended up just using, like, well, alternating my dash and my kind of my medium and my light, and just kind of tapped. Did 4 lights instead. So just I wasn't playing into like doing a medium. Oh, I'm going back as a swipe. So yeah, you choose what you feel is going to be best. Just laid out some options. If you haven't done it already, who did you use? Put it in the comment section down below. Check out some other content located on the screen. And yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye for now.